in fiscal year 15. And whereas the program makes a lot of economic sense, I have sort of a philosophical concern about the actions of this board creating these long-term commitments for future.
Except you have to balance that with the fact that we inherited $12 million a year in debt service for a high school that was done by our prior board. And I know you can say, well, that next one house won't cause you to do those things. But if you're really looking at long-term planning over a 20-year period of time, if we did no more ag preservation, we would build, eventually, more schools, more roads, more fire companies, and that debt won't be there. So there is a balance to say that which we are obligating those future boards to, we are also relieving those future boards of by virtue of doing this.
No
if I didn't believe that, other than just preserving the rural nature of the county, which I think has some value, mathematically, I don't think this would make sense under any scenario.
Well, it wouldn't. Doing the cost-benefit analysis,
That's
as
right.
we're wont to do. I mean, that's the justification for proceeding with the program, in addition to the aesthetics and the character of our community and that sort of
But
thing.
if you go
cost-benefit analysis is to save the costs associated with building infrastructure associated with growth.
And if you go back to the period of time when, I mean, ag preservation has been around for a while, and if you go back to, if we had just done none of it, during those periods of very, very high growth where there was not a lot of limitation on growth, we would have seen, I believe, more growth, and we would have more schools and more infrastructure, some of which we would be still paying for, some of which would not be necessarily being used.
You could build a lot of houses on the 60-some thousand acres that we have in
Without question. I just think we've got to look at that, and I know it's hard, and you can sort of write it off as rhetoric because it's intangible, and someone that's done accounting for 20 years, I don't like intangibles. You probably don't like, you probably like the hard and fast numbers, but the fact is long-term planning is about those things, as we've heard on a number of other issues, that are not, we can't hard and fast book the school we didn't build or the road we didn't pave or what
Except
have
you can look at the statistics of history, and you would see that, generally speaking, the number of lots in the rural area has stayed the same as towns go up and down and back and forth. And when it's market driven, and like right now, when the towns are having trouble because they can't get the water allocations they need, then more development takes place outside of the towns. When something's happening in an area where there's an inadequate facility outside of the towns, then more development happens in the town. So it's market driven, and I do think you can follow it and see where the numbers go. And the fact is that just by limiting a lot in some area of the county doesn't mean that growth is still not going to occur at the same rate. It's just going to occur somewhere else. And you can see it.
Maybe it'll occur where there's the infrastructure in place to support it, though.
Yeah.
Well, more occurs where the infrastructure is that allows higher density. That's true, but it just moves around.
I want to bring up one more issue related to preservation we haven't touched on yet, but it's contemporary, and I see that Joe Kuhn is here.